Hey there, welcome back to my channel. So glad you could join me today. We're going to get into something called a prophecy update today. Normally I do some teaching about a number of different things, but today we're just going to run through a prophecy update, show you some videos of some of the events happening. This is a special prophecy update because we are now about to enter in to the next Shemitah cycle, the next 7-year cycle, and I strongly believe that Daniel's 70th week has to start on a day like Rosh Hashanah on a cycle. It isn't just any day that the final 7 years can start. So I'll get into that in just a little bit. We want to welcome you to the channel. So glad you could join me. Please make sure you share, you like, give me some comments if you've got some more prophecy update information to send me about things going on around the world. I'm really excited. This is a very special time where we could be entering into the final 7 years. So please like, share, comment, hit the bell on YouTube so you can get so you can subscribe and know when I put out new prophecy updates or new materials, new videos. You can find me, of course, on YouTube, Vimeo, BitChute, where else? Rumble. Any place that you listen to podcasts. There's an audio version available. And so over my shoulder, you'll see an image like that. When you do a search for podcasts called Wormwood Prophecy or Wormwood Asteroid, you'll see this image and you can subscribe and get all my audio podcasts. One of the great places to see me is on Roku. Do a search for End Time Prophecy and you'll see an asteroid there, a big orange asteroid. That's me. Click on that, add that channel to your Roku, and follow me there. And so I'm all over the place, and I praise God for that. You know, God's given me this little trumpet, and so I'm just blowing the trumpet that I have, and I pray God makes it bigger, and it only happens because of your support. Thank you for all my supporters. I get no money from anywhere except from my supporters. So if you want to help get this trumpet blown to help me reach more people, please support me. You do that by going to thomastaylorministries.org, thomastaylorministries.org. Hit the donate link there, and that helps me do what I do to get the word out so I can produce more videos, so I can get more content out, so I can do it in a professional way that has good audio, good video, good lighting, and all these different things, good video editing as well. And so all these things make it happen. You make it happen. Please pray for me. Please support me. Please help me, because I believe this is a ministry God's given me to reach people in the last days, particularly concerning the Wormwood asteroid. That's kind of the central theme of all I talk about, are the 7 trumpets of the book of Revelation. And we'll get a little bit into that, but really I'm going to talk about some awesome prophecy updates. So let's just give you an overhead view of what I'm talking about today. Real excited. Of course, we're entering into Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. Starts really Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday of this week. And so really excited. Going to talk a lot about that in just a little bit. But I'm excited about the Red Heifers that have now shown up. They came out of here, Texas, not far from me, Dallas area, Texas. They left here, 5 Red Heifers, and they went over to Israel, the first ones that qualify as being red heifers in almost 2,000 years. Now that's exciting. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about NASA's first planetary defense mission, which happens to also be on Rosh Hashanah, or you can say Rosh Hashanah. Either way, you know what I'm talking about. It's the Jewish New Year, the Feast of Trumpets. So I'm talking about a NASA mission where this is the first one ever where they will take some tests from some observations that they're going to be doing out there in space by hitting a planetoid, an asteroid out in space. So we'll get into that. Next, the Queen has died, And now there's a new king, King Charles III. We'll talk a little bit about that and the prophetic significance that may have on the world. Then we'll talk about the Pope who went to Astana for a Congress of World Religions, and he sent that what he did there as a declaration to the United Nations this week. And so, if you know how I feel about the Pope and United Nations, you'll know that that's really some extremely bad news. Anything that this Pope is doing is bad. He's going against Christianity, against even much of Catholicism. He's considered a heretic. So anyway, we'll get into a little bit about what's going on there. So let's jump in. All right. So I show this image sometimes, and I just want to explain it for just a moment. This is the final 7 years. Now, this is a Jewish calendar, not a Gregorian calendar, and so I believe that we could be entering into Daniel's 70th week this coming week. Don't know for sure, of course. We won't know for quite a while until the events of the final 7 years take place, which can take years to find out, because I believe a lot of it will be hidden. But we will see, I think, a couple things that'll be more out in the open. My belief is, we talk about Daniel's 70th week, and it can't just happen any old time. It has to happen at a certain time. It has to happen, I believe, on the Jewish New Year, on the Feast of Trumpets. That starts the new year. It has to happen on a Jewish New Year. But not just any old Feast of Trumpets. It has to start a new Shemitah cycle of 7 years. It is, Daniel's 70th week is a 7-year period of time. And the original Hebrew language points to it is a Shemitah cycle. In other words, a 7-year cycle. And so if it's not this 7 years, it'll be the one after that or the one after that. We don't know. We won't know again until things start to take place. But this is the one I'm watching because, as you can see on the chart here, I got a little asteroid out there, and that is the asteroid Apophis that is destined to come, fly by Earth, or maybe even impact Earth in the year 2029. So I got my little asteroid out there to calculate. And so what we'll see is right now when I'm shooting this, we're in the year 5782 in the Jewish calendar. But when Rosh Hashanah happens, or the Feast of Trumpet happens, we will enter into a new year, the year 5783. And what we will expect to happen is a third temple to be built. And that's what I'm going to be talking about. There's some exciting things that would move us heavily in that direction, like the Red Heifers, that the third temple is about to be built. And I've got some interesting stuff taking place in Israel that I can prove. Well, I'll just say suggest that it's about to take place right now. In other words, everything's getting set, and it could happen. And when it happens, it's going to happen very, very quickly. In other words, if they're going to build the temple like within a year, maybe less than a year and a half at the most. I mean, they are prepared to knock it out real quick. And that's Israel trying to build their temple, I believe, is going to be a major part of the persecution that begins on the nation of Israel. There's going to be intifadas. There's going to be all the Muslim nations surrounding Israel are going to go nuts, bringing in bombers and attacking with knives, and just they're going to go crazy. They're going to, of course, from anywhere they can, they're going to try to lob bombs and missiles onto Israel, and the Iron Dome will protect them, and the angels of God really are going to protect them. But there is coming a point where the Antichrist will be able to enter in and destroy and kill several million Jews, and so that's prophesied in our Bible. So what's going to happen is a temple is going to be built, I believe, probably in the first half of Daniel's 70th week, and things are being set in motion for that to take place. And then temple sacrifices will cease. 1,290 days later will be the abomination of desolation, which is the Antichrist desecrating the third Jewish temple. And so that's out of Daniel chapter 12, verse 11. And so after that, I believe, is the Wormwood asteroid strike. And then not long after the asteroid strike, Jesus comes, just like it says in the book of Matthew, chapter 24. And that's going to be where he takes his church, his bride, off the earth after the asteroid strike, according to Matthew 24. And you won't find any rapture before the asteroid strike, where the sun turns dark, the moon turns to blood, the stars fall, the earthquake, and these different things the Bible prophesies about all over the place. In Luke 21, Mark 13, Matthew 24, Revelation, Isaiah, Daniel, all kinds of scriptures that talk about these things. And so that's why I show this chart. So we're in a 7-year Shemitah that's finishing up the last 7 years. We're about to enter into a new 7 years. And so this Daniel's 70th week has to be one of these 7-year periods. It can't start, the year after this, and the year 5784. Daniel's 70th week cannot start in 5784 or 85 or 86. It has to either start in 5783, or we have to wait 7 more years until 5790, or 7 more years after that, or, we don't know, of course. So this is the one to be excited about, because this is the closest of an asteroid that has ever been. For this size asteroid, the closest approach of an asteroid. And so that makes me think that it could fulfill the Wormwood prophecy. This is the 7 years I am watching for. Now, is there going to be a 7-year peace treaty with Israel? No, I don't believe that. Look at my other videos. You can find that out. What we are going to see, though, I believe, is some conflict in Israel. We're going to see the confirming of the covenant for 7 years. That's actually what the Bible says is going to happen. It's very clear. Daniel 9:27. The Antichrist, will confirm a covenant with the many. The many is the nations. It's not Israel. It would have just said Israel if it was Israel. He will confirm the covenant with many for 7 years. What is the covenant? I talked about that in my last video. The covenant it shows up in 4 different ways. You already are aware of it. You already know about it. It is known as Agenda 2030, also known as the United Nations Global Goals for Sustainable Development, starting in September of 2022 and for the next 7 years. If it's the final 7 years, I don't know, but if it is, you're going to see the Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2030, shoved down the throats of all global citizens. All right. And it's going to go from a place of being optional to being forced. The nations will be forced eventually to, many of the nations are, in fact, all the nations are already on board voluntarily, but it will be forced on the nations of the world by the time it's all said and done. It's forced Marxism, communism, socialism. And so it is in the political realm, which the red horse represents. In the political governmental realm, it is called Agenda 2030. In the economical or business realm, which the black horse represents, it's called the Great Reset. In the climate version, representing the green horse represents, it's called the Paris Climate Agreement. And in the religious version, which the white horse represents, pushed by Pope Francis himself in his encyclical called Laudato Si. Again, check out some of my other videos talking about the year 2022, talking about the covenant with many. Check that out. It goes into a lot more detail than I have time for. That's what's going to be pushed for the final 7 years for Daniel's 70th week. It's called Agenda 2030 for a reason. They expect to get it done by the year 2030. So Agenda 2030 is to push all the nations into the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which basically means world government controls literally everything on the planet. Look up the Sustainable Development Goals, 17 of them. Look them up. They control healthcare, currency, markets, school, education. All the land, the forestry, the oceans, the fresh water, all produce, all employment, literally everything. They just tell you they're doing it. They just tell you. Look it up. That is the covenant with many. All right, so the Antichrist is going to be pushing this. Now, I think he's been doing that, but now he's going to rise to a place of great influence, but I don't think it'll be seen out in the open. He's not going to be revealed yet. He's not going to be revealed until we get closer towards the very, very end of the 7 years. But behind closed doors, he is the impetus. He's the force behind the nations doing this thing, Agenda 2030, or also known as the Sustainable Development Goals, the World Economic Forum's Great Reset, Laudato Si by the Catholic Church, and the Paris Climate Agreement, which a lot of the nations have signed on to and are trying to already implement right now voluntarily. And you're feeling it. You're seeing food shortages. That's done on purpose. All right. You're seeing shortages. You're seeing food factories and oil refineries blowing up and catching on fire. People are doing this on purpose to destroy the markets, to destroy the economies, to destroy the dollar, to destroy things so that you would buy into world government taking over to help you. They're the ones causing the problems. The evil people are causing the problems so that you'll listen to their solution. So you won't have any choice. It's important who you vote for, even if they do rig the elections. Vote, pray, vote. Anyway, I'm going to read 2 Timothy. This is talking about the Antichrist. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 6. And you know what restrains him now. Now, who's the him? It's the Antichrist. Now, we don't know. Paul didn't explicitly tell us what that was. But you've got to turn off or take off your pre-trib glasses, which tells you it's the church restraining the Antichrist. Just take off your glasses. Pre-trib is not true. The Bible says clearly in John chapter 6, 4 times Jesus himself said it, will be resurrected on the last day. We're raptured on the last day, not 7 years prior. So you take off those pre-trib glasses. What in the world then is 2 Thessalonians mean if it's not the church restraining the Antichrist? What could that possibly mean? We're just going to read it very carefully. You know what restrains him now. Who's him? The Antichrist. So that he will be revealed in his time. So what's the restraining? It is restraining him from being revealed. See, if he's revealed as the Antichrist, he will be resisted by the world because everybody knows the Antichrist is a bad guy. It has to be at the right time where they won't even care that he's a bad guy because he will promise them solutions because they'll be in such a state of absolute fear and terror because an asteroid's coming. And he thinks, he says he's going to have a solution for that. So, but until that time comes, if everybody knows he's the Antichrist, well, they're not afraid enough to buy into him as the world leader. And so something is restraining him from being revealed, not restraining him from working. He's going to work for that 7-year period to take over the world, quite literally become the world government leader. He will be working according to prophecy. He'll be working. So it's not about him being restrained from working. It's him being restrained. It's about the restraining is from him being revealed. Okay? Revealed as the Antichrist. Verse 7 says, for the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. Even in Paul's time. Only he who now restrains will do so until he is removed. Okay? There's coming a point where the veil that's hiding the Antichrist from being seen, he's behind closed doors, he's hidden, doing his work, pushing Agenda 2030, is my theory. He's behind closed doors. He's hidden, and he will not be revealed until the right time, towards the end. And then the deception will be removed so that everybody will know he actually is the Antichrist. When you worship him, you take his mark, you put it on your head, you put it on your right arm, you worship the image, you're worshiping Satan, and you know you're doing it. You're going to pledge allegiance to the world government, to the beast. The world government is also called the beast, by the way. And I believe the mark is going to be, in essence, a mark pledging allegiance to the world government as your God. And he's running that world government. Okay? And so, verse 8, it says, and then the lawless one will be revealed. See, it's not about restraining his working. It's restraining him from being seen. When the deception, the veil that keeps him from being seen is removed, he will be revealed. Verse 8. That lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord will eliminate with the breath of his mouth and bring to an end by the appearance of his coming. All right. So I believe we're going to feel the force of Agenda 2030 and the sustainable goals starting Rosh Hashanah 2022, which technically is Sunday night, Monday, and Tuesday. It's like, for us, it would be like 3 days. We don't know which day enters into the, Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, it has another name. It's called a holiday where no man knows the day or hour. That's actually the name. Jesus told us, that's why so many scholars, Bible scholars, eschatology scholars believe that it must be the Feast of Trumpets, which is Rosh Hashanah, because that's the name of the holiday. The holiday is called, or it has an idiom called, the day that no man knows the day or hour, because no man knows when it begins, no man knows when it ends, because they have to watch the moon disappear and reappear, and that takes about 2 days. So nobody knows exactly when it starts, nobody knows exactly when it finishes. So the holiday itself is called Rosh Hashanah, or the New Year, Yom Teruah, which is the Feast of Trumpets, or the idiom is the holiday where no man knows the day or hour. So Jesus was kind of telling us, wink, wink, watch Yom Teruah, Rosh Hashanah, the Feast of Trumpets, for his coming. I believe it's going to be, but we won't know which day it is, whether it's day 1 or day 2 of the 2 days, or which hour it is that he comes. So that's Rosh Hashanah. So we're going to expect the covenant with many to be forced onto the earth over the next 7 years, as well as, I believe, I would say tribulation will begin on Israel. The temple will start to be built in the first half of the final 7 years, and then great tribulation in the latter half of the final 7 years will begin. All right, that's all my teaching for today. I'm going to get into the prophecy update. I am really excited. Out of my area of Texas, right down not far from me, was the ranch where the red heifers were discovered. Because of COVID, normally they put the marks in the ears to mark each calf. But because of COVID, the guy didn't show up for work that day to mark these calves. And so these calves are unblemished. They have to be unblemished. They have to be perfect. They can't have more than 2 white hairs or black hairs in their entire body. And they have been looking over this man's cattle for I think for a few years now. And we haven't had any. This year was the year we found 5. Now this is important. We haven't had a red heifer in almost 2,000 years. In the history of Israel, there's only been 9. We've now got possibly 5. So if over the next year, one of these develops a white hair, more than 2 white hairs or black hairs, they can be kicked to the side, but we still got 4 more left. So this is really promising. Now, what's the big deal about the red heifer? Well, I'm going to read some of this, and then I'll try to explain what is not explained. This is an article out of Israel 365 News talking about red heifers arrive, and that happened on September 14th, 2022. Interesting. That's right before a new Shemitah cycle of a new 7 years, right before possibly the beginning of the rebuilding of the third temple in Israel. All right, so I'm going to read. This was by Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz, Israel 365 News, talking about the red heifer. This is the ritual law that Hashem, talking about God, has commanded. Instruct Bnei Israel, which is I think it's the people of Israel, to bring you a red cow without blemish, in which there is no defect, on which no yoke has been laid. And so that's the case. This is out of Numbers chapter 19, verse 2. And that is the case. These calves will not do any work, no marks on their ears, no blemishes. They are perfect. They were studied heavily when they were in the United States. And now they brought them all the way to Israel, and they're going to study them over the next year. These calves are a year old. When they become 2 years old, is 2 years and 1 day, is when they get slaughtered. And it only takes one. It only takes one to slaughter one to create the purifying water. They're going to take the ashes. They're going to burn it, take the ashes, put it in the water, and that is the water for purifying for the service of the temple of Israel. So the people have to, the Jews that are serving in the temple, they have to be able to be cleansed. None of Israel is clean right now. Now, this is, of course, Jewish law. This is not Christianity at all. We know we're clean by the blood of Jesus. That is the true cleansing. The point is not about, if it's proper. It certainly is not. The blood of, or even the ashes of a red heifer do nothing. But it is something that moves us one step closer to the rebuilding of the third temple. But we know as Christians, it's only the blood of Christ that cleanses. And so we don't put any faith in the red heifer. People are giving money towards it. It's nothing. It means nothing, except that it moves us closer to building the third temple. The Temple Institute has already got everything ready to build the third temple. They've made all the candles and the lavers and the bronze altar, and they've literally got, I think they even say they have the Ark of the Covenant. Now that's kind of hush-hush, but they've got it all. They've trained the priests. They've got the mitre. They got the whole, they've got literally everything in gold. It's cost millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to make all this stuff. It's already done. Only thing they were missing is one, the red heifer to prepare the Jewish people to cleanse them. And two, they need a temple. They need a temple to do it. And so once the temple's built, then, of course, that's the prerequisite for it to be desecrated by the Antichrist. You have to have a temple for the abomination to even take place. Let me read some more. The Temple Institute and Bana in Israel made a huge step towards reinstating the temple service on Thursday when 5 red heifers landed at Ben Gurion International Airport. The red heifer was the main component in the biblically mandated process of ritual purification for impurity that results from proximity or contact with a dead body. Because the elements needed for the ceremony have been lacking since the destruction of the Second Temple almost 2,000 years ago, all Jews today are considered ritually impure, thereby preventing the return of the temple service. The Temple Institute launched its Red Heifer program about a decade ago, led by Rabbi Azariah Ariel. But even in temple times, an animal that fulfilled the biblical requirements was exceedingly rare. Failing to produce a suitable candidate from ranchers in Israel, the Temple Institute began investigating alternative sources for a red heifer. And so, I'm not going to read any more, but it goes into a guy in Texas that started raising red cows and And they went over there and examined them for quite a while, and they finally found 5 of them, which is amazing. And they brought them to Israel this past week. Now, a team of rabbis from the Temple Institute flew out to inspect the calves last year. The requirements are incredibly demanding, requiring that there be no more than 2 non-red hairs on the entire calf. You can imagine how hard that is. It must also never have been used for any labor or have been impregnated. The heifer must be 2 years old and 1 day old, 2 years and 1 day old to be suitable for the ceremony, which means they're going to slaughter it, burn it, take the ashes, put it in the water of the laver, and now, the Jews can cleanse themselves. Sometimes a calf that is perfectly red when it is young develops a black or white hair as it grows older and may develop a blemish. Sometimes the colored hairs fall out or disappear. Certifying the calf requires a complete and intensive inspection in which a rabbi knowledgeable in the law goes over the entire calf with a magnifying glass. Kanan pointed out last year was the year 5781 in the Hebrew calendar. This is interesting. In the Hebrew numerology, 5781, and he has the Hebrew characters there, it's an acronym for, the year 5781 is an acronym for, it will be the year of the red heifer. That's what the year 5781 means. An acronym for, it's the year of the red heifer. Well, the cows we are looking at right now were conceived last year. Amazing. But that's not all. Kupitsi says this, the year 5782, which is the one that we're going into, is an acronym for, it will be a year for the heifer in Israel. Oh, I'm sorry. 5781 was the year that the heifers were born. I'm sorry. This year is, when I'm shooting this, is the year 5782. It will be the year of the red heifer. After Rosh Hashanah this coming week, it's 5783. And that is the year in which the ceremony of the red heifer will be performed, because those calves will be 2 years old. And the year 5783 is an acronym that says it will be a year of the Red Heifer of Redemption. Okay, interesting. So from the time of Moses, who personally prepared the first red heifer, until the destruction of the temple, only 9 red heifers were ever prepared. There's only been 9 in the history of the planet, okay, or prepared for Israel. Nonetheless, this was sufficient to maintain the ritual purity of the entire nation for almost 2,000 years. According to Jewish tradition, there will only be 10 red heifers in human history, with the 10th red heifer ushering in the Messianic era. That's kind of cool. Just to go a little bit farther with this whole idea about the third temple getting ready to be built. Just this week, another update I have for you. Also out of Israel 365 News, Ben Gurion is gearing up to bring all 70 nations straight from the airport to the third temple. That's the name of the article. And so what you see here is an image of a train that'll leave Ben Gurion Airport and train people straight to the Temple Mount. Now you'll see very clearly in the picture at the top there's the third temple. This was distributed among Orthodox Jews. I'll read the article. It says in 2020, Israel's transportation ministry said it would move ahead with the plans to build an extension of the Tel Aviv-Jerusalem high-speed line that would directly connect Tel Aviv Ben Gurion International Airport to the Western Wall in Jerusalem. A proposal was made to name the future temple train station after Donald Trump. Nice. The plan is experiencing stiff opposition from the Palestinian Authority, which wants Jerusalem as the capital of an Arab state instead of Israel. The Palestinian Authority also denies that the Jewish temples described in the Bible ever existed. Transportation infrastructure will play an essential role in the third temple as a house of prayer for all nations. Notice they're bringing in that, plurality of religions there. So that tells you they plan on splitting the Temple Mount. Israel's on one side and Muslims on the other. Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque on one side, Jewish Third Temple on the other side at the same time. And this is happening in different places of the world where they're trying to bring all the religions into one place to make a one world religion. Now, you can't do that unless you compromise your own religion. Christians should have nothing to do with, global religion, world religion, one world religion. Christians should have nothing at all to do with ecumenicalism. Nothing. You can't compromise truth just because you want to join hands with a Muslim. You can't do it. The article says this was clearly in the minds of the Jerusalem municipality when they distributed these brochures, like the image, in the ultra-Orthodox neighborhoods of Jerusalem in July to address concerns about increasing the light rail system. The brochures featured religious Jews riding the light rail to the third temple, bearing animals and vegetable sacrifices. Look at that. So the Jerusalem municipality is a government, a civil government people. They're the people that run the city of Jerusalem to a large degree. And so they distributed this thing, which basically this brochure telling everybody, hey, we're about to build a third temple. Or we're going to someday. Maybe not momentarily, but someday. It's obvious it is in their mind. And of course, the Palestinians are outraged. And again, I think that's what's going to cause a lot of the trouble in Israel. There's going to be trouble probably with Iran, through Hezbollah, and of course the Palestinians are going to get extremely riled up and cause an intifada, bombs and rockets and knives and anything they can get their hand on to kill Jews when they start to build this third temple. All right, the next update is about a DART mission. DART stands for Double Asteroid Redirection Test. And so NASA's first planetary defense mission has finally begun. And guess what? It is going to happen on Rosh Hashanah. Just a weird coincidence. Isn't it the Jewish people that said there's no such thing as a coincidence? All right. So I have a video about that. I'm going to play the video right now so you can learn more about the double asteroid redirection test. Here you go. Here's what you need to know about near-Earth objects. Our solar system is littered with asteroids and comets, and sometimes they get a little close to Earth. But no need to worry. This happens all the time. When an asteroid or comet could come close to our planet, it is known as a near-Earth object. But how close is close? A near-Earth object is defined as an object that could pass by our Earth within 30 million miles. NASA begins to keep close watch on objects that could pass within 5 million miles of our planet. To put that in perspective, our moon is only 238,900 miles away. However unlikely an impact is, NASA wants to know about all near-Earth objects. The Space Agency's Planetary Defense Coordination Office maintains watch for asteroids and comets coming close to the Earth in order to warn of any potential impacts. Along with its partners, they discover, catalog, and characterize these bodies. But what if one of the objects poses a threat? We want to be prepared. That's why NASA is working on several deflection techniques and technologies to help protect our planet. So next time that you hear of an asteroid passing close to Earth, know that it's just one of many that NASA is tracking. All right, so you'll be able to watch that live. You'll be able to go to the nasa.gov/live or something like that website and watch that Monday night, where they are going to do they're going to impact Didymus. Actually, it'll be the smaller asteroid that goes around Didymus, Dimorphos. They're going to hit it, and they're going to take pictures and measurements and all that good stuff. So out of an article I found, NASA's DART mission launched to Didymus 1:21 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, November 24th, 2021. So they launched it back in November 2021, and now Monday it's going to reach its destination. And they won't even be able to see anything until about an hour right before it hits, and that's where they're going to adjust it to hit the little moon that circles the main asteroid, a little small asteroid that circles the big one. They're going to hit it with an impactor. This is the first time ever there's been any planetary defense actions made by NASA. So it's something to be aware of, and we'll see how it goes. So DART will intercept the smaller moonlet asteroid at 7:14 p.m. EDT on September 26, 2022. DART will impact Dimorphos at a high speed, I think it's like 14,000 miles per hour. It says here, about 4 miles or 6.6 kilometers per second. Dimorphos will be about 6.8 million miles or 11 million kilometers from Earth at the time of DART's impact. The goal of the mission is to determine how much of DART's impact alters the moonlet's velocity in space by measuring the change in its orbit around Didymus. Scientists think that the collision will change the speed of Dimorphos by just a fraction of 1%. It should alter the moonlet's orbital period around the larger asteroid by several minutes, enough to be observed and measured by telescopes on Earth. So you can imagine NASA's pretty excited about this, and so we can watch it on our TV on Rosh Hashanah if you want to, or on the internet, and see what happens, see what they do. And it'll take several weeks to get all the data back and decide, what's the next step. Can we move forward using an impactor as a way to mitigate an asteroid hitting the planet? Of course, they're saying there's no asteroids at this time that are going to hit the planet. They would keep repeating that mantra over and over and over. But the Bible says Wormwood is coming. No question about it. Wormwood is an asteroid that will absolutely strike the Earth. It's coming. Is it coming in 2029? I don't know. But Wormwood is definitely coming. All right, my next prophecy update has to do with, the Queen has died, you're aware. And this changes everything. It changes so that Prince Charles becomes King Charles III. And he chose the name Charles too. He could have picked any of 4 names. He chose the name Charles, which has some bad connotations with the previous 2 Charleses, kind of bad guys. So he chooses to be Charles anyway. He could have picked other names, but he chose Charles III. So I'll read a little bit about this and the prophetic implications. The UK's longest reigning monarch died peacefully at the age of 96 at Balmoral Castle Thursday, making Prince Charles king effective immediately. The 73-year-old royal will now be known as King Charles III. Newly elected Prime Minister Liz Truss also referenced the royal by the new title. Today the crown passes as it has done for more than 1,000 years, to our new monarch, our new head of state, His Majesty King Charles III, the Prime Minister said, in part, according to People magazine. Well, King Charles is a scary guy, all right? There are a lot of people that believe he is the Antichrist, like a lot, like a whole bunch. I started reading that book that kind of proves that. I don't think it proves it at all, but people seem to think it does. It's called, what is it called? It's called, The Antichrist and a Cup of Tea. I recommend, don't buy it. You can download the PDF for free. But there's not a lot to it. They basically say, King Charles, his name is Prince Charles, his name equals out to 666. Well, now his name is King Charles III. His name doesn't equal 666 anymore. But there's a lot of people whose name equals 666. So this whole trying to figure it out by the name doesn't really mean a whole lot at this point, because there's several people who've had whose names equaled 666. Then they start talking about his royal bloodline, which his bloodline is like everybody's bloodline, so it's like it means almost nothing. But the Freemasons, the Masonics, and the occultists and the esoteric groups all think his line is the bloodline. He's the head of the Freemasons supposedly, and that will make him the Antichrist. And so it goes into some articles like that, or some proofs like that, and none of it really makes any sense to me. Let me say it this way. It's not that it doesn't make sense. It doesn't prove that he's the Antichrist at all. But I think he's a very scary guy. He could be one of the 10 kings which rule under the Antichrist. Now, he could be the Antichrist. I'm not completely eliminating it. But check out this video and see what you think of this guy.
Running in parallel. The scale and scope of the threat we face call for a global systems-level solution based on radically transforming our current fossil fuel-based economy to one that is genuinely renewable and sustainable. So, ladies and gentlemen, my plea today is for countries to come together to create the environment that enables every sector of industry to take the action required. We know this will take trillions, not billions of dollars. We also know that countries, many of whom are burdened by growing levels of debt, simply cannot afford to go green. Here we need a vast military-style campaign to marshal the strength of the global private sector. With trillions at its disposal, far beyond global GDP, and with the greatest respect, beyond even the governments of the world's leaders, it offers the only real prospect of achieving fundamental economic transition.
All right, so trillions are needed. Did you notice? He said trillions are needed for him. Who's the him? He never said who the him is in the entire speech. You can watch the entire speech. He just says trillions are needed for him. For this, well, who's the him? You start to think, who's he talking about? I can't help but think, is he talking about the Antichrist? He knows who he is, and we got to get this money to him to have more power, right? Satan? I don't know. But it's, he talks about a military-style campaign. He's pushing Agenda 2030, sustainable goals. Again, that is the covenant with many. And now this guy is the king. He decided he also not only wants to be the king of the United Kingdom, he wants to be the king of Europe. That's actually his goal, king of Europe. And again, it's the date that makes this interesting. Queen died, just a couple weeks before Rosh Hashanah. He's now put into power just before what could be the final 7 years. So the date is what makes this interesting. That's why I'm bringing it up. I don't think he's the Antichrist, but he is definitely pushing Agenda 2030 behind the scenes. making a lot of the meetings that you've heard about take place, like, the COP26 thing, and he's behind a lot of the things going on at the United Nations. All right, speaking of people working behind the scenes, there's also this guy working in the front. He's always in the front. He's the Pope. He has to be in the front. Well, there's this place called Astana in Kazakhstan. And I made a little video about it. And so I want you to see this video where this guy, this past week, has got together with the world religious leaders from all the different religions of the world, got together at Astana, Kazakhstan, this place with this inside of this pyramid. They met in this pyramid, okay? And they tried to unite the religions of the world, and they made this declaration. And now this week, while I'm now talking, they're giving the declaration to the United Nations to be read and to be declared and so forth, because the United Nations are also meeting this week. The week right before the final 7 years. There's all kinds of stuff happening right now. It's pretty exciting. Watch my video. It's about 8 minutes long, but it will open your eyes to the evil of Astana, Kazakhstan. Content from xlives.com concerning Astana's Pyramid. It is called the Pyramid of Peace. This giant pyramid is an odd presence in the middle of the Asian steppe. The building is dedicated to bringing together the world's religions. Norman Foster has said that the building has no recognizable religious symbols to permit the harmonious reunification of confessions. In reality, the pyramid is a temple for the occultist only true religion, and that religion is the religion of sun worship. A journey inside this building is a truly symbolic one, and it represents each human's path to illumination. Why a pyramid? The initiate accepts the pyramid form as the ideal symbol of both the secret doctrine and those institutions established for its dissemination. That is a quote from Manly P. Hall, The Secret Teachings of All Ages. The pyramid is the ultimate symbol representing the mysteries. Let's take a tour of the Astana Pyramid. The Opera House, which is found in the basement of the pyramid, is the place of entertainment. It is the ground level. It is interior. It is dark. The basement houses Astana's Opera House, where the unsuspecting masses get entertained. Despite the darkness, a huge image of the sun occupies the ceiling of the Opera House. The midsection of the pyramid, Kazakhstan's Religions Congress, meets around a huge table with the image of the sun in the center. Where the sun sits in the Opera House, on the next level up, is where the sun sits in the center of the table of the religious leaders of the world as they try to unite all religions into one. You have religious leaders from around the world sitting around a huge figure of the sun, discussing how to reconcile their differences for the coming new age. The space is also much more luminous on the next level up, the midsection, where the religious leaders meet regularly in their congress. It represents a progression towards illumination from the dark, cavernous Opera House to the higher levels of enlightenment in the midsection of the pyramid. sun image is the middle of the round table, exactly on top of the sun of the opera house. So while the general population is being entertained in the darkness of the material world, the illuminated are sitting on top of them and are contemplating how to reach godliness, divinity. Next is the apex of the pyramid. It is the capstone. The apex is all windows, bathing in sunlight and in pure illumination, the highest illumination, symbolically speaking. It is the place that represents the Antichrist, Lucifer, the light bringer, who we know as Satan and the devil. Images of white doves are embedded in all the windows, which represents peace, which will result in the unification of the world governments and religions in this new world order of Satan. On the ceiling of the apex, we see the solar deity shining upon the illuminated. The pyramid's divisions: the lower dark opera house, the middle conference room for religions, and the illuminated apex, the capstone, representing the Antichrist and Satan. Pythagoras' teachings are thoroughly studied in today's occult societies. Pythagoras divided the universe into three parts, which he called the supreme world, the superior world, and the inferior world. In other words, this pyramid, much more than being a tourist attraction, is a representation of the philosophy of the initiate. Another thing you'll find at Astana is a monument. The monument is meant to embody a folktale about a mythical tree of life and a magic bird of happiness. The bird's name is Samrock, and he lays his egg at the top of the tree, the crevice between two branches of a poplar tree. Incidentally, this bird is on the flag of Kazakhstan. It really is more of the phoenix, which again represents Satan. This bird lays an egg at the top of the tree. The tree of life is what this tree is called. So the golden globe at the top of the monument is this egg, and again it represents the sun, the supreme deity for the Luciferian worshippers, also called the Illuminati. This tree of life represents the channel through which spirits go to leave the material world and join the divine world. This concept is recurrent in most, if not all, esoteric societies. Also in Astana, the capital, you'll see pillars. These are Masonic pillars, Boaz and Jachin. These pillars, working in concert with the Tree of Life monument, could possibly create a electrical charge like a capacitor, so that you could see electricity shooting across the city sky from the Tree of Life monument to the two pillars of Jachin and Boaz. You will find the pillars of Jachin and Boaz in all your Masonic temples. All right, so that's my video. There's a lot more to be said about this place, the capital of Kazakhstan, called Astana, which you can change the letters, it's Satana. It was obviously built by Freemasons. There's occult symbology throughout the city where the buildings are. All the buildings, all the monuments have some type of like satanic, occultic message, hidden meanings. Freemasons made this thing, obviously. But this is where the world religious leaders meet, as well as there's other meetings there. I think it is a place where the Antichrist will have a throne or a seat. It might not be his main throne, but at least he will spend a significant amount of time there, if he's not already there now, behind closed doors. This is, to me, the darkest place on the planet Earth. So these religious leaders of the world have gotten together and they've made these declarations. And here's some of the declarations. I'll just read a few. We note that pluralism in terms of differences in skin color, gender, race, language, and culture are expressions of the wisdom of God in creation. Pushing pluralism like it's a good thing. Religious diversity is permitted by God, and therefore any coercion to a particular religion and religious doctrine is unacceptable. You get that? If you're a fundamental Christian or even Muslim, you're not supposed to bring people into your religion. It will become illegal to do so, I believe, by the time we get into the final 7 years, towards the end, where the world religion they'll try to force that on everybody. Do you know it is actually the false prophet, whom I think is probably going to be the final pope, could be this guy, Pope Francis. It's the false prophet that implements the mark of the beast. It's not actually the Antichrist. It's the false prophet that makes the world worship world government. It makes the world worship ultimately the Antichrist and Satan the dragon. It's the false prophet that does that. Read your Bible. So, this guy and the World Religious Leaders Congress said this as well. We recognize the importance and value of the document on human fraternity for world peace and living together between the Holy See, which is the Pope, and Al-Azhar al-Sharif, which is the head of the Muslims, basically. Adopted by the UN General Assembly in Resolution A-Res 75-200 of December 2020, and the Makkah Declaration adopted in Mecca in May of 2019, which calls for peace, dialogue, mutual understanding, and mutual respect among believers for the common good. That's what it's all going to be about. It's going to be for the common good. So if you oppose world religion, you oppose world government, you're opposing the common good, and that will ultimately make you a criminal. And you will be beheaded for it if you keep persisting in it. A little bit more, and then we'll close out their declaration from lovely Astana. Also goes on to say this: we instruct the Secretariat of the Congress to develop a concept for the development of the Congress of the leaders of the world and traditional religions as a global interreligious dialogue platform for 2023 to 2033. All right. So they're trying to make a declaration that the world religious leaders are to continue to have dialogue for the next decade. Then they say, we affirm the role of the Republic of Kazakhstan as an authoritative and global center of intercivilizational, I don't know how to say that word, interreligious and interfaith dialogue. I don't know how to say that word, but you got the point. Bringing together civilization, bringing together religion, bringing together all the faiths is to be centered in Astana, Kazakhstan. And the 33rd point they make, We want to thank the Republic of Kazakhstan and President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev for convening the 7th Congress of the Leaders of the World and Traditional Religions for their humanitarian initiatives and for contribution to renewal and progress, peace, and harmony. All right, so you can see the world religions, just like the Bible prophesied, are on track. They're going to push a one world religion headed up by the Pope, and a one world government headed up by the Antichrist. This is happening now. We're in the end time. We're there, guys. I mean, this stuff means it's time to get ready. It's one, you got to make sure you're right with God. Turn away from sin, give your whole life over to Jesus Christ, and get right with God from your heart. Receive Jesus, and then get to work getting other people saved. Tell as many people about Jesus as you can until they shut us down, till the days grow so dark where we cannot spread our word, we cannot speak our voice among the internet or the airwaves of radio or TV anymore. They're going to shut us down. So let's do it as much as we can, as loud as we can, for as long as we can. Now's the time. All right, well, that concludes the prophecy update. Get right with God. Get ready for Rosh Hashanah, Sunday night, Monday, and Tuesday. Yom Teruah. It's also known as the Feast of Trumpets. Again, like, share, comment, spread the word, get the word out. Make this voice loud. We've got to tell more people Jesus is coming. He's coming. Get ready. Get ready. God bless. Good night.